Hello and welcome to the Martinus Institute's YouTube channel. And welcome to Else Byskov, our guest today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
My name is Pernilla Rosell. I'm sitting here at the Martinus Centre in Klint, and we have this series of interviews in English on our YouTube channel. And we are so happy that you wanted to join us today. From Denmark, I think.
Yeah, I'm in Denmark at the moment. Usually I live in Spain, but in the summer months we stay here in our summer house in Jutland.
And we have sort of a rainy weather right now, but we hope for a more sunny summertime.
Cold. It's very cold.
Those of you who know Martinus and his world picture, his cosmology, know that Else is a prolific author. You have written 11 books about Martinus and his worldview. That's quite fantastic. This is the last one, the latest one.
The latest one, yeah.
Probably not the last.
No,
many of our English speaking Martinus friends especially have pointed out how much your books have meant to them.
That's very good to hear.
As an introduction to his world picture.
That was the whole idea.
And we have made 2 podcasts. We have recorded 2 podcasts with you earlier on, so where you tell something about yourself and your life, but perhaps you could tell us briefly how it all started. We know that your first book, Death is an Illusion, was published in 2004. Is that right?
No, 2002.
2002.
Yeah.
So perhaps you could just tell us again how it all started.
It was also very strange because I had been an atheist all my life, and but still I was a seeking soul. I really needed to find a solution to the mystery of life. And then after we had moved to Spain, a friend of ours came down with some books that we had stored in his house. And when I opened one of these boxes, there was a book written by John Engelbrecht called The Intuitive Thought. I looked at it and I picked it up, and I immediately knew intuitively that this was where my search ended. And I opened up the book, and there was something about Martinus. And I read it, and I was just over the moon. And then we ordered all his books. And I read his 2 main works in a year. I was so fascinated by it that I was just like, there was nothing else that interested me. And I just thought, this is fantastic. This is so great. I have to tell it to somebody. And then because I have also English as a subject from university, I thought I wouldn't write about it in Danish because the Danes can just read Martinus. I thought at the time they really can't. But I mean, of course they can, but it's often too difficult because it's very compact. Anyway, so I wrote Death is an Illusion. It was published in the USA. I was lucky to find a publisher in 2002. And then since then, I have just been inspired to write more books. So that's basically about me.
It's fantastic. And as we said, you just published this book. I think it was last year,
2023. Yeah. I think it came out in September, something like that. Yeah.
The Earth, the Universe, and God in a Cosmic Perspective. And with the subtitle, The True Theory of Everything Based on the Spiritual Science of Martinus. And it's very easy to read and get through the book, and you cover so many important aspects of Martinus's world picture. But when we prepared this interview, we thought that it might be interesting and also very relevant to focus on, especially about what you write about our Earth, our planet, our macro being, as Martinus puts it. And it's very moving, I think, when we think about everything in life, how we relate to our what he calls the mesocosmos, all our human beings, animals, and
Yeah.
the beings we experience, and also our microcosmos, which we have talked about in other interviews and podcasts.
Yeah.
And to really think about our beautiful planet.
Yeah.
In Sweden, as in English, we talk about Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Of course, it gives us a sense of belonging, a very close relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our home.
Yeah. Yes, so do we in Denmark, Moder Jord and Mother Earth, of course.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. And it's interesting because many of those people I speak to, they will maybe agree that the Earth is alive, because this is the point, this is the whole point, that the Earth is not just a lump of dead matter, which is what is the mainstream narrative. Those who study the Earth, they don't see it as a living being. And the thing is that, yes, it's a living being, because the structure of life, as Martinus explains on symbol number 7, is life inside life inside life. I mean, we are living on the planet Earth, so we are its micro beings, but inside us, there are billions of other living beings, and inside them, there are more living beings. And the Earth is also alive in the solar system, which is a living being, and the galaxy is a living being, and the galaxy clusters are living beings. And then at the end, there's God, not the Christian God, not the Hindu God, not the Muslim God, but the cosmic God. And I think that is a totally different story, because there's so many people, they cannot take the idea about God, because they say, if God was really as good as the churches claim, why do we have so much misery? Why is so much going on at the moment that is really, really terrible? But it's because they have a wrong concept of this whole thing. And I think it's a pity. And I really like, which is something I write in at the beginning of my book, that somebody, I think it was actually Jens Christian Hermansen, who interviewed Rupert Sheldrake, the English scientist. And he said, and he asked, do you believe in God? And Sheldrake said, yes, I do. But I don't believe in the God that you don't believe in either. I think that's such a good point, that we have to have a different concept of God. But the subject of God is huge. And I think that for practical reasons, we should start by looking at the Earth, because there's so much discussion these days about the climate. The climate is the hottest subject going around at this point in time. And so many people are so afraid about what is going on with the climate. And it's true that there's global warming. It's true that the climate has sort of gone amok. So what is going on? And I only just read a few days ago in the newspaper Information that they had been interviewing an American climate scientist called C.K. Hausfather. And he expressed that the models that we have for the climate, that we have sort of figured out, they don't hold. There's something going on with the climate that we do not understand. And hooray, I thought. Finally, somebody can see that there's a factor. There's a huge factor that they have overlooked. And it's really hard to overlook it, quite honestly. But they have overlooked it. And it is that the Earth is a living being, not a dumb lump of clay, and not a primitive being, but a very wise and very advanced living being that controls its own body just as we do. I mean, we claiming that we run the climate is like claiming that we had 40 fleas on our body. that was controlling how the temperature on our body. I mean, it's preposterous. The Earth controls the climate here. We do not. And I think when we look back and look at the last ice age that only ended 14,000 years ago, it's not very long ago, seen in the history of the Earth, which is 4,500 billion years old. It's such an old being that the last ice age, it ended like this. Suddenly, the huge ice caps started to melt on the northern hemisphere. They went all the way, the ice went all the way down to the southern part of Germany. And suddenly it melted and melted and melted. And I mean, there were 2 million people on the Earth at that time. 2 million primitive people armed with clubs. Could they have caused that huge thaw? Of course they couldn't. So why don't the scientists look back at that and say, hey, there we had another huge climate change that we cannot account for either? Because what was it if it wasn't something internal? And of course it is. There's something going on with the Earth, and I'll come back to that. But let me first just mention, what signs have we got on the planet? I mean, what can we find that absolutely tells us without a shadow of a doubt that the Earth is alive? And the first huge thing is that the Earth has metabolism. Only living beings have metabolism. And how can I claim that the Earth has metabolism? I can, because we know everything goes in cycles. I mean, everything is reused on the planet, on the surface of the planet. We know that in autumn the leaves fall to the ground. They are somehow decomposed by the Earth itself, so that they can start as soil in a new cycle. Everything goes in cycles. We have the cycle of matter. We know which types of matter are decomposed quickly and which are decomposed very slowly. I mean, a strawberry is decomposed in less than a week. A bottle is decomposed, takes thousands of years. But everything, and Martinus says, even a diamond is decomposed. Everything is subject to the metabolism of the Earth. And we also have the cycle of water. We know that the water of the surface evaporates when heated. It condenses when cold and falls again to rain as rain, and that then runs in rivers and rivulets. And it's like this cycle into cycle into cycle. So the Earth is alive, and it is the Earth that runs the climate. We don't. I mean, it's fine that we try to reduce our emissions of carbohydrates, because we're simply exploiting the Earth to a degree that is unhealthy. I think that is clear. Yeah. But it's not something that cannot be remended, no. Yes. Fixed. Yeah. It is definitely fixable, because the Earth is in the process of a very huge change. But I'll come back to that, because there are also other signs that tell us that the Earth is alive. For instance, how come then, when we have so much carbohydrate pollution, why doesn't the level of oxygen in the air go down and the carbohydrate go up? Doesn't. It's stable at 21% oxygen. And that is because the Earth regulates it. It's regulated by the Earth being. And why does it regulate it? It does because the Earth is aware that it has a microcosmos, the animals, the plants. We are the microcosmos of the Earth. And we, the humans and the animals, need 21% of oxygen in the air to live. So the Earth makes sure that we have that, because if we don't, we will die. And the Earth needs us. It's not as if we are dispensable to the Earth. Far from it. The humans are, according to Martinus, the equivalent to the brain cells of the planet. So we are its brain cells. And of course, it needs us. The Earth also regulates how many brain cells reincarnate on its surface. So, I mean, sometimes some people I speak to, they're so afraid about overpopulation. And, oh, we're way too many. No, we're not way too many. We are exactly the amount that the Earth needs at this red hot moment. It's not as if we're too many. We are those that are needed. And but also this is regulated by the Earth. It's not as if we can decide, even though the Chinese, they tried to limit the number of Chinese being born on the planet. I think they succeeded to a small extent, but we do not decide the number of living beings that are alive here. We do not decide it, nor do we decide which species go extinct. And I mean, a lot of people are so worried about biodiversity, and now this species is on the verge of extinction. And to that, I can only say that 99% of all species that have ever lived on this planet have died out. But they have not really died out. They have just reincarnated on a different planet, depending on how their habitat is. I mean, let's talk about the polar bears. The ice caps are melting. The polar bears have trouble finding enough food, and it's getting too warm for them. So what will they do? In their next incarnation, they will reincarnate on a planet that fits their needs for a good habitat better. It's not as if, I mean, we have to see everything in a bigger perspective. That no species is dying out like that. It moves on to a different planet. Okay, and at a certain point in time, it evolves away from its primitive state to a more advanced state. So if we go back to the Earth and say, hey, what's going on the Earth at the moment? Let me just say that all living beings are subject to evolution. We go from primitive and very selfish and egoistic beings, as the humans were tens of thousands of years ago, when we were running around like with clubs and killing each other and whatever. And from then on, from each life we live, we evolve, we learn things in each life, and whatever we have learned, we take with us into our next life. So in this way, we grow and grow and grow as we evolve. So, and the Earth is exactly the same. The Earth, as I said, 4,500 billion years old. It is a very, very, very old being, and a very wise being. It's not, and Martinus says it's the most advanced planet in this part of the Milky Way. It's very exceptionally clever and advanced being. And as all other living beings, including us, the humans, it's on its way to getting cosmic consciousness. We will all get cosmic consciousness sooner or later. You know, Martinus had cosmic consciousness, so did Jesus. And there are others who had it, but very few actually have lived on the planet Earth. And because the Earth is such an old and wise being, it is very close to the point when it will get cosmic consciousness itself. It will happen in only 3,000 years, according to Martinus.
Just if we say only 3,000 years, of course, some people who are perhaps not familiar with Martinus's world picture would think,
I know,
3,000 years. That's well.
Yeah. But if you look at 4,500 billion years, you must admit that 3,000 years is very soon. And Martinus says, for the Earth being, it's maybe only a quarter of an hour, because of course the Earth has a different time span that we have. So what is happening really on the planet at the moment is that every being that is very close to having cosmic consciousness undergoes a mental crisis. We've all been told about this, the fight between good and evil. And we have this fight in ourselves that we want to be good and we know we should be good, but we can't always do it. No, we can't do it. And we do things that we don't want to do because the good side isn't really strong enough yet, but it will be. And we will all reach a point when we get cosmic consciousness. And as you can imagine, when the Earth gets cosmic consciousness, its brain cells, us, will of course be the carriers of this cosmic consciousness. And that means that we, like Martinus, will also get cosmic consciousness within the next 2,000 to 3,000 years. So there's definitely something to look forward to. Very much so.
Perhaps you should say something about, just to be clear about it, about the principle of reincarnation at the point. How could it be? I mean, I won't be 3,000 years old in this body.
No, of course not. No, of course not. No, of course, we cannot understand anything until we take reincarnation into account. I'm sorry. It is so essential to understand that this is not the only life we live. I mean, the one life theory, which has a really strong hold on the whole population of the planet at the moment, is totally wrong. I mean, what's the point of living only one life? I mean, it's the more I think about it, it's my favorite aversion, the one life theory. It's never been proved, and nobody has ever proved that nothing survives the death of the physical body. What survives is our consciousness. Our consciousness is a field of energy. It's not limited to the brain, as the mainstream narrative wants us to believe. It's not. Our consciousness sits in our aura, which is an energy field that surrounds and is inside our physical bodies. So when the physical body is no longer serviceable, when it has become old or ill or injured, it stops working. But the I, the core of who we are, with its consciousness around it, pulls out as soon as the body is no longer useful, and it survives every time. Every time we lose a physical body, our consciousness in the spirit, it's also what's the same as what has traditionally been called the soul, survives. And I mean, we are eternal beings, and try to get your head around that. Eternity is such a long time, we can hardly grasp it. But anyway, we let me put it like this then. In between 5 and 10 incarnations, we will achieve cosmic consciousness, because we are the carriers of the cosmic consciousness of the Earth. The Earth knows, and that it is close to the opening of its cosmic consciousness. And it is very eager to get it. But it still has this fight between the good and the bad. And we have the good and the bad cells are quite easy to point out, because the bad cells are those who are still living by the killing principle. And it's those who want power. More power for me. Down with the enemy, he must be killed. I don't care if I kill 1 million other people, because the only thing that matters is me. that is on one point. That's on one side. That is the bad cells of the earth. And on this other side, we have the good cells, who are the ones that are that want peace, who are working tirelessly to help others, who are compassionate and loving, kind, loving, helpful. Those are the good cells. And the earth is eager at the moment to get rid of the bad cells, of the ones living by the killing principle. And Martinus says that what's really going on is the death pangs of an old culture and the birth pains of a new culture. The old culture that must die, that must simply be erased, is the one that I have just mentioned, all the warlike people. We see it in the Middle East, we see it in Russia and Ukraine. That is like this war, it has to be, it actually has to happen, because it is part of the earth getting rid of its primitive warlike cells. And of course, this process will take 300 to 500 years. But again, in the history of the earth, it's very soon, it's very quick. And Martinus says that, the last war will be fought on this planet. Somewhere he writes 300 years, and I've also seen 500 years. I'm not sure which of these numbers is right, but
he says some different things in his lectures too, and
yeah.
So he also says it wasn't his task to be a prophet, but he gives us
precisely
principles, and that's what I think also is so touching, that he describes the journey that you have described from being a primitive, what he also called one-poded being, or as you say,
exactly.
or egoistic being. That's when we are satiated with this, when we are longing for peace and humanity, we have actually this journey behind us.
Precisely. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a process that everybody has to go through.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means that everybody is at the absolute, top point of the development, and nobody can act in a different way.
Yeah, very good point, because nobody can be better than they are today. I mean, we are all standing at the peak of our own development, and we cannot react on the basis of experiences that we haven't had yet. So obviously. So it's all, I mean, what Martinus says in many places, that all war is just a lesson. It's a lesson that we have to learn to get to be able to move on. I mean, everybody suffers from war. And what is the point in suffering? Well, the point in suffering is that it transforms us from being primitive and selfish to becoming more compassionate, more humanitarian, more all-loving. And it's a journey that we are all on. We're all on this journey. Some have come further than others, but there's no exception. And we will all reach the point when we get cosmic consciousness, no exception. Even the worst dictator will reach that point. It only takes longer than for others. But anyway.
Sorry, they have their mission as well, as you say, the dictators.
They have their mission.
You quote those articles where he goes into somewhat more details. I mean, we think we have, or people have chosen this or that person to be in power, but actually this is decided by Providence.
Yeah, it's very interesting. By the earth being.
By the earth, coming from the earth.
Yeah. And I mean, at the moment, when I think about what's going on in the US and in Russia, I'm thinking, what? But Martinus says that those who have peace in their hearts have nothing to fear from a coming war, from a bigger war, if there will be a bigger war, because they are protected by their karma. I mean, the karma is something that we can also talk about for hours, because it is the main pedagogic tool of the universe. You reap as you sow. And when you sow war, you will reap it. Like, look at the dictators. They sow war. What are they going to reap? War. And I mean, it's so obvious in the Middle East. They have sown war, and now they're reaping it. They're reaping it big time. And it all looks very horrible. And it's all also very sad to look at. But we must remember that we can't die. We cannot die. We see people suffering and dying. And as Ole Terkelsen so cleverly says, that is how God makes real human beings, from primitive and egoistic to altruistic and all-loving. And it's a process that takes, well, millions of years from when it started. But now we are in the fortunate position that we are getting really close to its end. And you know, the darkest hour is always just before the dawn. And right now the earth is, Ole Terkelsen says, it's hot-tempered. The earth is hot-tempered because it is angry with itself, because the process of getting rid of the killing principle individuals is slow. So, well, I have to speed this up, so I'll make it warmer. But on symbol number 27, I think it is, Martinus also says that the earth is also, because it is a loving host. Let's really underline this. It's a loving host for us, its microbeings. And it wants its microbeings to have a milder climate. Because right now, if you look at the winters, for instance, in the big countries that have this climate, not coastal climate, but what is it? Continental climate.
Yeah, exactly.
They have terribly cold winters. I mean, 40 degrees minus in the middle of the USA in winter. It's absolutely terribly cold. And Martinus says the earth wants the conditions on its surface to become kinder and milder for its microcosmos. So it's also that, there's that. And then there's this thing about being hot-tempered, because the process of getting rid of the killing principle people is slow. So we are living in a huge transformation. And no wonder that we are asking ourselves, what is going on? Because it is so unpredictable, and nobody who hasn't studied the cosmology of Martinus, they have no idea, but they can just see that the old models that they have been using are insufficient. Like, for instance, we are the only people alive in the universe. I mean, all the rest of the trillions and trillions of other stars and planets, they are just dead. There's nobody living on them. I mean, it is such a huge mistake. The universe is teeming with life. There's life everywhere, even on Venus and Mercury, which are closer to the sun than the Earth. There's not physical life, but there's spiritual life, and there's life everywhere. So it's absurd to think that this little planet, this little speck of dust, as Martinus calls it, would be the only place in the hugeness of space with life on it. But so Martinus also underlines this old saying that I heard once. I think I was in Greece and visited the oracle of Delphi. Know thyself, and thou shalt know the whole universe. And I've never understood it until I read Martinus, because the thing is that the structure of life is the same on all size levels. So what we look upon when we look up at the starry sky at night, we are looking at the inside of another living being. whichever kind of being it is. But Martinus depicts this being as a human. And he says, we have the same, we have suns and planets, which is exactly the same as atoms and protons, or what are they called, those that go around?
Electrons or
Electrons. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, electrons. And it's exactly the same. So what all these rich people are trying, like, I don't want to mention any names, but we have to expand, we have to conquer space, we have to send people to the moon and Mars and beyond. And Martinus, he just shakes his head and said, no, there's nothing out there that you can't study inside your own body, because it's the same and the same and the same. So, and he says, he also speaks about the absolute impossibility for a physical body to travel even to the nearest star in the Milky Way, which is 4,000 light years away or something, not so far. And he said it would take 140,000 human lives to get there. I mean, it's absolutely impossible. So why even think about it? Why spend billions and trillions of dollars on something that is so futile as this? And they do it because they think, well, we know that the Earth will at some point in time, in millions of years, be uninhabitable. So we have to find a way that we can expand. I mean, get your act together. I mean, when you look at life in a different and bigger perspective, everything falls into place. Everything. And that is the most amazing about the Martinus's work. It is so huge. The magnitude of it only gradually dawns on you the more you study it, and you can study it and study it and study it, and it never begins to bore you because of its absolutely visionary grandness. So
I really embrace that as well. You can sort of just go on studying it, and I think we discover new things.
Yeah, we do. Every time we stop, we read it, and like the last book that the Institute has published, it's called Martinus Answers Questions.
Yes, that's right.
I'm just reading it at the moment, and it's so interesting because Martinus often, I think maybe without knowing it, he reveals little things that he doesn't write about in the book. And yes, and also in some of the articles, he explains about the aura and what it does and how it works, and it's like digging into a treasure trove, really. So yes, I think that if we want to understand the world, and we do, and everybody is looking for the solution to the mystery of life, the search ends with Martinus's work, because everything is there. Everything is there. And we see the beauty of it all, the absolutely magnificent plan that God, the cosmic God, has with its own body and with its microcosmos. And I think that once we realize that we are alive within God's body, but we're also alive in a conscious universe. The universe is conscious because it is the thought matter of God that fills the empty space between the planets and the stars. So in the old days, I learned that the empty space was empty. And then some 30 or 40 years ago, I started reading that, no, it's actually not empty. It's full of energy. And the point here is that energy and thoughts are the same. There are 2 points, there are 2 sides to this. A thought has energy and it has information, and the 2 cannot be divided. So we have out there in the universe, we have the thoughts of God. It's huge. So when we think about God, I don't think we think about him as the way Martinus does, because God is everywhere and everything is pervaded by his thoughts, and we are all part of God. So, but it's not a condemning and angry God like the one I learned about in school. I mean, that's why I became an atheist, because I just couldn't deal with it. But the cosmic God is a totally different kettle of fish, if I may put it like that. And it's so amazing, because Martinus also underlines that we can talk with this God during prayer. And Martinus underlines again and again and again and again the importance of praying. And he says, I cannot understand how anybody dares not to pray. And once you get that under your skin, it really makes a difference also to understand that we are surrounded at all times by spiritual beings that are God's listening instruments. So they hear all our prayers. Martinus says, your smallest sigh is picked up by the universe. It's not as if that we are just left alone to deal with everything on ourselves. So it's so amazing. Please read my book.
It's beautiful. Yes, I think people are just desperately also looking for some kind of life.
Exactly.
It's almost touching, as we are trying to find God somewhere.
Precisely. Yeah, precisely.
We can't be alone in the universe.
Yeah. And I mean, the universe is teeming with life. There's life everywhere, even on
many of you who are listening will just feel inspired to read your books and to read Martinus's works, and we have a lot of his works published on our homepage on the Martinus.
Of course, and I'm not writing this to get people away from reading Martinus's book. On the contrary,
quite the other way around.
Yeah, it is the other way around. Well, I'm trying to do it to make it more accessible. That's all.
Exactly, and to give inspirational also associations to our time. Time flies. It's so inspiring to talk to you, but we will have to wrap it up in a few minutes. But just coming back to this topic with Mother Earth, you mention here also, in order to relate it to our time, that the idea that the Earth is a living being, that's where we started out a little. That's not in a way a new or a strange idea. It's been sort of a natural instinct in many cultures and many people perhaps today.
Absolutely.
In fact, in Sweden, people talk about Sweden as being a very very secularized country, but also very close to nature. So some people feel, I don't really believe, but they want to go out, because I come from Stockholm. I'm Swedish. People feel, I don't really believe in religion or God as the God they have learned to believe in, who they don't believe in, but they go out into nature and feel connected to something.
Absolutely. And people, even the most hardcore materialist, will go out into nature to find some kind of peace, to find some kind of connection. Even though he may deny that it exists, he goes there anyway, because he can feel it. If we just can get back to the climate, and Martinus says that the biggest factor that decides the climate is the relationship between the sun and the earth. Because the sun is the atom of the earth, where the earth is what was the word? Not proton.
An electron.
Electron, yes.
Electron, and construct in itself.
Yes. And this relationship has the final say about the climate. I mean, we should not think that we have any say in it. I mean, it's fine that we are conscious about stopping pollution, and we are conscious, but I think that once we get conscious about the earth being a proper living being, not just some dumb thing, but a really intelligent and wise old being, we will also learn to start to treat it with respect, which we are not doing at the moment. At the moment, we have greed and selfishness at the steering wheel of the planet. And of course, that won't do. It will not do, and it has to stop. So what we have to see, what we will see in the future, is some huge change. So huge that we cannot really, I don't think we can imagine how big it will be, because it will be, as I said, a paradigm shift, a paradigm shift of the biggest. But we should really welcome it. We should welcome it, and we should welcome that we are living right in this very, very exciting time. So exciting. Look at it. So much going on. I mean, yeah, people die, but they will reincarnate and be wiser when they come back. So, I mean, death is not something to fear or to mourn about. It's simply an exchange of bodies, and it's not a tragedy. But it's the one life theory that has taught us that it's a tragedy. But as the one life theory has never been proved and is improvable, we could simply forget about it and see things, our own lives, the life of the planet, the universe, and God, in a bigger perspective. And I think that's maybe a good way to end this talk.
It's a world picture full of, well, it's a very loving and optimistic world picture, as you have described.
Love everywhere. It's so loving. Yeah.
So something we could just wish that everyone who longs for this just will discover that there is hope.
Yes.
You have every reason to be optimistic and to just embrace life and embrace our planet, our beautiful home. And
a very good point, Pernilla. Embrace it. Live it, experience it. See it as a huge experience, and know that in your next life you will be a wiser, better looking, cleverer, whatever version of yourself. So there's only things to look forward to.
Well, I think that's a great point to stop. So thank you so much, Else, for being with us today. Thanks for all the inspiration, and we look forward to your next book.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.